Are you an eye care professional looking for exceptional education, hands-on training, incredible networking? Well, I have the solution for you today. It's all about Seco 2025, baby. Let's go.
This is a Defocus media production. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Lyerly, resident optometry nerd.
And welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast, where we discuss the hottest topics, latest technology, eyewear, practice management, and more. So sit back, relax, and defocus.
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover. Super excited to be here because we are talking about something that I think all of us as eye care professionals need, and that's education. That is training. That is the ability to network with our colleagues out there to continue to push this profession forward, to take it to the next level. And on today's podcast, I have two eye care professionals that have done an incredible job with being amazing ambassadors for our industry. Amazing ambassadors when it comes to education. Friends and colleagues, it's a pleasure to welcome the one and only, well, I should say the two and only, if that is a thing. I don't know. I'm just saying. But friends and family, let's welcome our colleagues, Dr. Chris Wroten and also Dr. Paul Ajamian. How are you two doing today, my friends?
Good evening. Doing great. Thank you for having us, Darryl.
Yes, what a pleasure to be with you all.
Hey, man, I'm super excited to have both of you on the show today, because we're going to talk about Seco. You know, Seco's been around, I believe, I want to say about a century or so, right? And I know this was designed by the profession for the profession, right? And over the years, over the decades, it's been nothing but great, amazing education. But you guys every year seem to take it to the next level. So I really want to dive deep into, you know, the history and talk about the future of this amazing conference. But before we go too far, I always like to get to know my guests a little bit better. So if you don't mind, maybe sharing a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into this amazing profession of eye care, this amazing profession of optometry. Paul, we'll start with you, my friend, if you don't mind.
Age before beauty, absolutely.
No argument.
Well, thank you. Just real briefly, optometry's been an incredible blessing for me. I was interested in the eyes since 9th grade, and my dad steered me toward optometry, and I applied to one school, New England College of Optometry, and actually didn't get in. Well, they said I could get in if I took the OCATs, it was called back then, a second time, and I 2 weeks later wrote them and said, no, I'm not going to do any better. So if I were them, I would have said, see you later. But they sent me my acceptance letter and went to New England College of Optometry. And where it all changed for me is when NECO really was a pioneer in fourth-year externships that were outside of the clinic and the network of healthcare centers that they had in Boston. And very, very forward-thinking dean, Dr. David Greenberg, actually established a relationship with Bascom Palmer. And so I did a 6-month externship there. When it was over, I said, I don't want to leave. But they said, well, you have to leave. You graduated. I said, well, how do I stay? And they said, you can't. I said, what if I started a residency program? So we came up with a proposal. We paid 4 residents $12,000 each, and we figured out a way to fund it. And I was one of 4 residents. I chose myself, and then stayed on a little bit after that, which led to the referral center opportunity in Atlanta, which is where I've been ever since.
Nice. Wow.
That residency program, by the way, at Bascom Palmer is stronger than ever. And Chris has had some residents, some former externs that have done the residency there. And so it's really changed the profession tremendously, because at the time, there was no real training in ocular disease. There were no diagnostic laws. There was no glaucoma laws. And so the profession was starving for ODs that had some disease training, and God put me in the right place at the right time.
I love that. And I want all my colleagues to actually just kind of dial into what you stated. A lot of times we take for granted the things that we have, right? And it's our history, our doctors that came before us that really opened up the way that we practice, that really allowed us to do more full scope optometry. So, I really want to thank you, Paul, for all the great work that you have done, all the great work that you will continue to do, because we need optometrists like you to continue to push this profession forward. And I'm super excited again to have you on this show, because I know you're all about pushing our profession forward, education, full scope optometry, and making this profession live forever.
Thank you.
Chris, man, let's get into it, man. I know you got an incredible background, and I want the whole world to understand your story. So when we have this conversation about Seco, all the listeners, all the followers understand that we have the two OGs, the two great guys that are running this and making the magic happen. So let's go with it, man.
It's an honor for me to even be mentioned in the same sentence with Paul and all he's done. And certainly my story is very different, and it doesn't involve the groundbreaking things that he did. My I guess path to optometry was a little different. It was non-traditional. So my bachelor's was actually in chemical engineering. So I spent 2 years, just forgive me, I know I'm optometry's worst patient, but I saw the light and I gave up engineering and came around to the right side. So I left the dark side. So forgive me. But I spent 2 years as an engineer and quickly realized that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I'm an 8 diopter, myopia, my contacts. So, I've been in and out of my optometrist's office since I was little. I know the huge impact he had on my life, like many of our colleagues who share, that similar story where, as an athlete and in my academic success, I wasn't going to wear those glasses. I mean, I'm sorry, I'd go around blind before I wore those 8 diopter thick myopic glasses. And so that was my insecurity at the time, but contact lenses were a life changer for me. And thanks to my optometrist who brought that to me. So that was kind of always in the back of my mind when I decided to leave engineering. I was like, I'm really more interested in the biological sciences than the physical sciences anyway. So kind of had that background, resigned from Exxon, had to take a position temporarily elsewhere while I was getting some biological science prereqs that I didn't have to have for my engineering degree. So I was applying to optometry school, took a position actually as a high school chemistry teacher and as an assistant high school basketball coach for my former coach, who was now at a larger high school in the Baton Rouge area. And I walked into a situation where the team just happened to be fully loaded. I mean, like we ended up one time we were ranked 4th in the nation by USA Today. Now, we probably weren't the 4th best team in the country, but we were an elite high school team, traveled all over the country. I got to sit in on recruiting visits with all the big name college coaches, got to know some of them on a first name basis at the time, and even had a temptation of possibly pursuing that as a career. I had a little door open possibly to take a college assistant job at one point. And at that point, I already been accepted to optometry school. I said, no, this is the path that God has for me. And I'm thankful I did, because that was definitely the route that I needed to go. So matriculated to SCO, did a residency in the VA there in Memphis. My wonderful wife, I actually met when I went back and was coaching and teaching in high school. She was in undergraduate at the time, and a mutual friend set us up on a date, and I asked her what she wanted to do when she grew up. And she said, well, I've always wanted to be an optometrist since I was in 3rd grade. I was like, wow, that's kind of heavy. I didn't tell her I had already applied to optometry school, or that that's my plan too. So I actually got into SCO and finished my first year, and we were dating remotely that year. And then we got married after my first year. She got accepted that following year. So she was a year behind me in school. So we went through as a married couple. And after my residency, I stayed in private practice in Memphis at a referral-based type of private practice there, and then ended up moving to South Louisiana to join my current partner, Hunter Bond, at the Bond Wroten Eye Clinics in Southeast Louisiana. Have a couple of office locations and a number of ODs that I'm privileged to get to work with on a day-to-day basis, and have really tried to follow Paul's lead and so many of our other mentors before us, and get involved in organized optometry and try to push the profession forward as we were able to successfully do in Louisiana years ago. And so that's been a passion of mine and will continue to be moving forward.
Wow. Incredible story, man. I mean, it was like perfectly written for you, right?
Yes.
And I love everything that I'm hearing from, the mentorship to private practice to, finding the love of your life and optometry being a part of that. Just all great information. And I want to say thank you again for being a part of the show and all that you have done with eye care as well. But let's jump into it, gentlemen. This show today is really all about Seco. I had my opportunity to first attend Seco maybe 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I can't recall. But I remember the first time I went, I was blown away. I was blown away by the education. And the more and more I started to read up and learn about Seco, I was just blown away by the rich history of Seco. So I'd love for us to maybe take it from the beginning. That way we can have that solid foundation and that blueprint, and then kind of fast forward to where we're at and what we see the future of Seco being. So Paul, if you don't mind, maybe giving us
Yeah,
a
since
history
Paul
lesson.
was there for that first meeting 102 years ago, I'll let him go first.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Paul and I might have both been there, because if you look at our heads, it seems like we've been around for a while.
Look
That's
out.
right.
I'm the one with the least amount of hair on my head and probably the youngest one on this call. So I don't know what to say about that, right?
You still look good.
Take it from the top, Paul.
So I wish I was around 100 years ago, because Seco started with a small group of optometrists in Greenville, South Carolina. And a few years ago, we had our centennial meeting here in Atlanta, and it was special, with a lot of photographs of old warehouse buildings where we met, and old hotels. But when I jumped into the picture, I really didn't know much about Seco. I was a little Massachusetts guy that didn't even, to me, the South was Connecticut or Rhode Island. So when I came south, it was kind of a shock. But the VEF practice that I went to from Bascom Palmer had this, was renting out space in a third of the end of this, what looked like a double wide trailer, to this group called the Southern Council of Optometrists. And I said, well, what's that? And I drifted down there and met a guy named Sam Galloway, who was the executive director and the editor of the Southern Journal, a private practicing optometrist named Frank Gibson, who went on to teach at SCO. And it turns out that it was a perfect marriage, because they were pushing the profession in the disease realm, putting on workshops on foreign body removal when that wasn't legal in most any state. Of course, the South led the way with diagnostics and therapeutics, with West Virginia and North Carolina. And so it was kind of a mutually advantageous situation, where the education led to legislation, and more legislation led to more education. And it was just incredible, the first days that I was at Seco in the Radisson Hotel downtown, where you'd open the door to a workshop, and cigarette smoke would just pour out of the rooms. There was an ashtray at every place setting, and but it was a small group, an amazing group. A guy named Ed Holland, optometrist in North Carolina, was pushing the envelope on the CE committee. And I said, how do I get involved with this? So that's when I first started as a volunteer on the CE committee. And it really has just been a matter of pushing the envelope clinically since then. And there are a lot of great meetings, as we all know. There's big optical shows like the Vision Expos that have CE as a sidelight. There's the AOA Optometry's meeting, which is our lifeblood for advocacy. That's a political meeting that has CE as a sidelight. There's the Academy, that's research and academics, that has CE as a sidelight. But with Seco, CE is the center ring attraction. And it's clinical, and it's the emphasis is on doing and bringing back to your office, and being able to put things into practice immediately that will positively impact your patients.
Wow. I mean, that's great. I mean, this conference is so rich in education. But I want to throw something at you guys. We live in a world now where folks can get a lot of education online. Why would someone want to go to Seco, get in their car, get in a plane, ride down there, and get this education in person instead of doing it online or somewhere locally. I would love for you to maybe really point out why Seco stands out, why it's so impactful when it comes to education, that everyone that's an optometrist should be at this show.
Well, I can certainly take a quick stab at that, Paul, and you can fill in any of the holes that I may leave behind. But I remember my first Seco. I was a fourth-year student at SCO. A couple of board members from Seco had come through and had challenged students to attend, and the college made a commitment that certainly as a fourth year, they would give you the time off to attend Seco. And so my wife and I said, hey, let's go check it out and see what this is all about. So I'll never forget, we got in our car. Of course, as poor students, we couldn't fly, so we drove from Memphis to Atlanta. I had registered for a course, and I was trying to maximize the classes I could get to. So we had looked at the time. Of course, we didn't have GPS back then, so we had to kind of guesstimate how long it was going to take us to get there. And we had timed it to get there about 30 minutes before our first course was going to start. And lo and behold, we're driving across Alabama, and then we get to the entering the Eastern time zone sign, and I realized we forgot to account for that in our travel time. So we missed our first Seco course. So we missed the first Seco course as a result of that, but I'll never forget that. But I remember getting there and just being in awe, like you, Darryl, of the people that were there. The number of ODs and the allied ophthalmic professionals that were there was just it was so inspirational, motivational. The energy, the vibe that was there was very palpable, and it remains to this day. Seco definitely is known for its family atmosphere. And the hallway conversations that occur outside of the classroom, the financial impact, I wish I could put a dollar value on that, what that's made to my practice. Yes, I learned a ton in the educational courses, and those are phenomenal. But that's the piece that I think you don't get online, obviously, is the ability to talk about what you just heard and bounce ideas off of a colleague, and then them share the way they do it, and something else may lead to something else that wasn't even covered in the course. And the quality of the attendee at Seco is just phenomenal. It is so clinically relevant, as Paul said, and that's something that's always stood out to me, is that when I'm in education at Seco, this is things that I can take home and apply to my practice. And so that's just been a phenomenal benefit to me, being there in person, and the motivation I take from seeing others, interacting with them face to face in a situation like that. Paul?
Well, and to layer on top of what Chris said, the optometry's marketplace, which has truly become the largest exhibit hall at any optometric meeting, and there's a ton of interaction that goes on there. We've put on educational programs in the exhibit hall, and we continue to do that. We've had booth talks, and now Chris has really spearheaded the anterior segment procedures and laser workshops that are happening in the exhibit hall, and pushing the envelope even further. And that's what Seco's always done. People might say, why are we doing these live laser workshops, which of course you can't do online? Only 11 states have laser laws. Well, if we did that with diagnostics and therapeutics, we'd still be in the dark ages. And so Seco has always presented the education first, which has motivated people to go back to their states and become involved politically and pass the laws that we need to pass in all 50 states. So it's a combination of the people, like Chris said. I mean, they're so grateful for the practical education that they get, but it's more than that. It's Darryl, it's education that you can't get at any other meeting. And I'm not bragging about that, except to say that it takes a lot of work to put on a unique program every year. It doesn't take as much work, and we've been tempted to do it, to just look at the other brochures of other meetings and just pull those speakers in to do the exact same talk with the exact same title. But we hand select speakers. We ask them to do specific topics that we think our attendees will value and will get something out of. And a big example of that are the special sessions, where we have MDs that, as Chris knows, are sometimes very difficult to work with because they go to their MD meetings. They just bring their laptop, open it, do a 10-minute talk, and leave. we come up with big video introductions. We've had tumor experts, corneal experts, Andrew Lee a couple of years ago, one of the world-renowned neurologists who, lectured us about things as basic as pupils, but people left the room like, wow, I shouldn't put Perla down on my chart anymore. So that takes a lot of effort, and that's what we do. And we want someone that comes to Seco to have almost a completely different meeting every single year. And then they can go to the other meetings and get other things, but it won't be a carbon copy of what we have. As a matter of fact, the other meetings do try to copy some of our ideas, and that's fine. That's we're flattered by that. But so a lot of components, the people stopping us in the hall saying, this is my 35th year at Seco,
Wow.
and thank you for what you do. And that's our reward every day.
I love it, Paul. And it's okay to brag, man. If you're doing the damn thing, you got to brag about it, man, and feel good about what you've done, right? I mean, what I'm hearing from you gentlemen today is that, this conference is truly providing unrivaled learning opportunities. It's truly providing, cutting edge exhibit hall and marketplace. It's also providing amazing and innovative networking that's taking place, right? So this is something that, regardless of where you're at in your career in eye care, there's an opportunity there for you, right? And it doesn't matter what your background is, whether you're an optometry student, whether you're an optician, whether you're a millennial optometrist or a seasoned optometrist, there's an opportunity there for you to go to this conference and take your education, your networking, your knowledge to the next level. Now, what I want to do next is I want to talk about this conference for 2025. I want to know what's going on. So I know you touched on some things that were done in the past, but let's talk about what's cooking up for 2025. I know one thing that I wanted to touch on. I do a lot of talking, especially to younger doctors, to student doctors. And something that I was blown away by was that you guys are going to offer some kind of review session for boards. I think part one in particular. So maybe we can kick off and start there. We can start with the younger part of the career and kind of work our way up. So I'd love for you to maybe touch on that first and dive into some of the other opportunities that's taking place at the conference.
Chris, you want to take that?
Sure. So, my experience as a student was my first exposure to Seco, and Seco has always had a special place for students. And there's plenty of free lunches and free things you can get in exhibit hall, and there's free things you can go to. And as you mentioned, Darryl, this year we're very excited about this board review. So it's a board review that's available to students who are attending Seco, in which there's going to be some practical, just day-to-day review on how things to review for boards. We don't obviously know what's going to be on boards, but we've got a rough idea. And being in clinic and seeing the day-to-day, we can tap into the expertise of many of our speakers who are the leading experts in subject matter categories that are covered on boards. And so it's a really unique opportunity to get some wonderful, wonderful review to help our students pass boards, because, the more you have to take boards, the more financial investment there is. There's more student debt associated with that. And so, our students deserve every opportunity to pass boards, and we're there to help. And that's Seco's goal has always been to advance eye care worldwide, and that starts with students. And so we're really, really excited about this offering for students this year. It's going to be done in a very unique format. I know, Paul, you've been involved with kind of helping to pull that together, but it's going to be kind of a game show type of format as far as the review. So it's not just going to be a sit down and let's go through all of these different diseases and what we do to treat them. It's more of a game show. So it'll be entertainment and education. Nice. So it'll be an edutainment.
I love that. And this shows, what you guys are all about. You've done your homework, you've done your research, you understand the assignment. When it comes to these students, the one thing this generation loves is to gamify things. And you guys understand where their mindset is at, and you're meeting them there to make sure that they understand the different concepts in a way that they understand things and speaking the same language. So kudos to you guys for really thinking outside of the box and bringing this opportunity to the students.
Well,
we also have some really exciting breakfast symposiums, we call them, and it's going to start with a full breakfast Thursday, Friday, and Saturday mornings. And then people will go across to the Sidney Marcus Auditorium, which is a wonderful, comfortable facility, and they will hear 3 sets of panelists on dry eye, myopia control, and glaucoma. and each panel will include 4 or 5 experts in the area that are doing research, that are treating, that aren't just, perennial lecturers, but they're clinicians. And so we're excited about those morning programs, and those will morph into, on Thursday afternoon, a session led by our own Dr. Wroten on new horizons in eye care in the future, which is going to be incredible, from wearables to AI to new cataract techniques. And then our second special session, which we do at least 2 or 3 of them every year, will be on Saturday with Dr. Arkady Yadgorov talking about interventional glaucoma and how glaucoma is shifting from just dumping drops in eyes where we can't really rely on patients to MIGS and a lot of surgical procedures and sustained release drug delivery systems, a lot of futuristic stuff that's here now, but that we're going to hear from directly from a surgeon who is actually doing these things. And so we're excited about those topics. I'll turn it back over to Chris to talk about lasers and anterior segment, but just to follow up on one point you made, Seco is all about bringing our staff to the programs, bringing our opticians, and going to joint courses, so to a variety of designated courses that are going to speak to both the staff and the doctors. And we sit there together with our staff and enjoy not only the education, but then the fellowship and the social opportunities at night. But the anterior segment workshops and laser workshops that Chris has designed are incredible. And Chris, you might speak to those for a minute.
Well, I wish I could take credit for them. Nate Lighthizer has been very involved in helping us with those. So we've had anterior segment laser workshops at Seco at least twice every Seco for as long as I can remember now. This year, we're actually offering a laser certification course. So you can essentially take the laser certification course, which is more than just a 2-hour workshop. It's a deep dive into everything to understand lasers, when to do them, not do them, indications, contraindications, treatments, complications to look for, just the very deep dive. It does include the hands-on workshop as well. And if you complete that entire course, you're laser certified at the end of Seco. And so that is something that we're not able to offer every single year, but this year we are. And the Seco board has made a commitment with the education committee to continue to provide the opportunities for our attendees to practice at the top of their profession and continue to move optometry forward. And so we will have just a single 2-hour laser course. So if you want to just get your hands on it, if you've already are certified to do it in your state, but you just want a little hands-on and to talk to some folks who are actually doing it in their clinics, you get a chance to have some one-on-one time with them and just to see some different laser devices from different equipment manufacturers. Or you can take the entire laser certification course, and it's 16 hours from start to finish for that portion there. Wow. We've also got anterior segment lid procedures. So Jason Allen will be handling a workshop on that on Saturday, in which it's Chalazion incision curettage, removal of lumps and bumps, injections. It's all hands-on stuff. So really going to be exciting. We've got two new super showcases, we're calling them this year, in which it's highlighting new things. And so to be in it, it's got to be something that's new or emerging that most doctors don't have in their practices right now. And so there's going to be an anterior segment version of that focused on the front of the eye. And it's the latest and greatest technology for the anterior segment of the eye, some of which just got FDA approved last week. So doctors will get to come in, they'll hear about it a little bit on the front end, maybe a 30 or 40 minute didactic session. And then the rest of the 60 minutes is focused on rotating through different workshops and putting your hands on it and hearing about it and trying it, seeing it from the provider perspective and the patient perspective. And then we'll have a posterior segment version of that Saturday afternoon as well. So lots going on the workshop side of things too. And that is also something, as Paul alluded to earlier, that kind of sets Seco apart a little bit, is the quality of the workshops and the opportunity to do real hands-on, clinically relevant trials of new technologies and technologies that maybe you only get a chance to hear about in a lecture otherwise, but you can sit down and actually do them under the direction of someone who's got expertise in that area.
Man, this is mind blowing. I mean, the richness of this education, the way you guys have strategized to really elevate the profession. I'm blown away. I just want all my colleagues out there that's listening to this podcast. If you have not been to Seco, put this on your radar. Really sit down, plan it out, get the education, take it back to your practice, implement something the day that you get back to work. Or on the other hand, bring your work family with you and go to these courses together and elevate that patient experience. That's what it's all about. If we don't have the right education, if we don't have the right knowledge, how are we going to help our patients live their best lives? How are we going to take eye care to the next level? How are we going to continue to push this profession forward? It's very important to make sure that we all take education seriously, because that's what's going to give us the edge moving forward. And I always like to say we are truly the gatekeepers into the healthcare system, and it starts with education. We got to make sure that this mind, our brain, the way we think helps us to exceed in that exam lane. And it all starts with education. Now, when does this conference take place? When is it cooking up? What's the date?
We've got a February 26th to March 2nd date.
Okay.
Right, coming right up on us.
Right back in Atlanta.
In Atlanta. All right. All right.
Georgia World Congress Center, and plenty of hotels around. Lots of exciting things to do in the area, right by Centennial Olympic Park. Great restaurants. Dr. Walt Mayo, who's our Chief Technology Officer, is also our Chief Gourmet Restaurant Advisor. And
say he's a big foodie. I know that for sure. I'm in a forum with him as well in regards to food.
Walt. Yeah. Optometry, Food, Wine, and Travel. If you're not on that Facebook page, it's a fun one. And we just urge everyone to come down and experience the Southern hospitality that we truly deliver to our attendees. I mean, the committee is what really makes Seco special. And I have committee members that I've worked with since the early 80s. And it's going to be kind of sad to say goodbye to some of them. Some of them are stepping down along with me. Segue to your next topic, because we've got some great people coming in our place. But the volunteers are a family in and of themselves that have made this probably the most special thing I've ever done, of all the things I've done in optometry. It's really something that we want you to experience by, like you say, Darryl, just come down, pull the trigger, register, and let us know that you're here, and we'll take good care of you.
I love it. I love it. So, gentlemen, we have started from the beginning, the foundation of Seco, right? Then we transition into what's taking place now for 2025. But for those that may not be able to make it to the conference this year, what does the future of Seco look like? Paul, you have done an incredible job with, really being able to, have the pulse of this conference over time. But what does it look like in the future, man? I mean, what changes are we going to see take place? Who's going to start to lead some of these things? Because I understand you've been a part of this conference for over 100 years from the conversation earlier. So I'm curious to know, what does the future look like, my friend?
Well, I've been on the committee, like I say, since that double wide trailer ran my clinic into Southern Council back in 1982. But I've been chair since 2002, and that's been a great honor. But it's been a long time for one person to be the chair, and I've done my best to come up with creative ideas and stay up with things, but it's time to pass on the mantle. And the gentleman on the screen, Dr. Wroten, is just the perfect doctor at the perfect time to take over for me. And I just feel so good about him leading us into the future. And he can answer all your questions about what's in store, because I'm not sure, but I'm going to be here to assist him and support him in any way I can.
Well, hey, man, that sounds great. And I already know that it's going to continue to be great, because one thing you mentioned earlier, or one of you gentlemen, was that you stated that Chris is going to talk about AI. Chris is going to talk about the future. And matter of fact, I got my little baby. I want to say hello to my baby. Come on in.
Yeah.
This is the future.
Absolutely.
Have us a future optometrist
Speaking
here.
of the future,
Hey,
hello to everyone.
Hello.
So, you're talking about the future of optometry. That's an incredible thing. You were talking about AI, wearables, things like that. So it's important to make sure that we have optometry in the right hands, especially when it comes to education, because that is the future of how we're going to build and grow this profession and take it to the next level. But Chris, let's learn a little bit more about what this actually looks like, my friend.
Well, it's certainly one of the honors of my career to have served under Paul for the last 12 years at Seco on the education committee. And certainly there's no way his shoes can ever be filled. So my main goal is just not screw things up, kind of moving forward. And if we can just kind of maintain the momentum, continue to build on the legacy that Paul and those who were before him have already laid, then certainly success is pretty much guaranteed as much work has been put in. So, but we're just going to continue to focus on what Seco's mission is, and that's to advance eye care worldwide through education, professional networking opportunities, and strategic partnerships. And so those are the three big pillars that Seco was founded on and continues to focus on, and the board is dedicated to. So, we have a reach that, yes, Seco started as the Southern Council, but it is not a regional meeting. It's an international meeting, and we've got partnerships with associations in the United Kingdom and Trinidad and Tobago and Costa Rica and Colombia, and I'm probably missing a few here, Paul.
South Africa.
South Africa, yes, that's the one big one I was trying to remember. And so we get colleagues coming from around the globe to attend Seco every year. And so there's an opportunity to continue to help them move the profession forward in their countries as they continue to move forward. And we've had a huge representation from Canada last year. And there are 2 provinces in Canada that are in the process of trying to get laser privileges and up there. And so the opportunity we have is just still tremendous, but we have to stay focused on the future, not forget the past, but stay focused on the future and make sure that we're positioned legislatively, educationally to provide the latest and greatest treatments and technologies to our patients for their sake. And so whether that's gene therapy and cell therapy and all of the broad things on the horizon there to the latest and greatest with different drug delivery developments and ways that we can actually treat patients and even bring cures as much as we can. The AI revolution, wearables, all of the technologies that are out there and IOLs and everything else. And so we've got a big task just to continue to stay focused on that. But that's the goal, is to be very forward thinking, not leave anyone behind, but at the same time recognize, hey, there's going to be change coming. And while optometry does have its fair share of challenges, just like every healthcare profession right now, the opportunities and far outweigh the challenges that we may sometimes tend to want to focus on, especially on social media. And so we're going to stay focused on the opportunities that are out there. And if we do that and maintain all we've continued to do for the last 102 years with Seco, then our attendees, our member states will be poised to have a fulfilling career unlike any other. And so I'm really excited about what the future holds.
I love it, man. And again, thank you for all that you have done and that you will continue to do. Again, you guys, this is an international conference. It's not regional. So, come and meet people from all across the world, make those intimate relationships, those incredible partnerships, and grow, not just professionally, but also personally. You may run into an opportunity that may change your life, because the powerful connections that you'll make at this conference are just unmatched. I want everyone to go to the website right now, attendseco.com, sign up, register. Again, the dates are February 26th to March 2nd, down in Atlanta. It's going down. Incredible opportunity to network, to educate yourself, just to take it to the next level. So make sure you sign up and tap in with these 2 experts here, along with all the great other educators that'll be out there. Now, something I always ask all my colleagues that come on the show is, what do you want to be known for when it's your time to retire? What do you want to be known for when it's your time to retire your phoropter, essentially, right? So, Paul, I'd love to start with you, man. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind in eye care?
Well, as Chris mentioned, we've seen so many changes in a relatively short period of time. what I'd love for our colleagues to do is, again, it's great to push forward with lasers, but what about using the things that we have, like glaucoma? And that's an untapped patient base that a lot of ODs just assume, well, it's too complicated, or I don't have the instrumentation, or it's just not something I want to get involved in because people go blind. Glaucoma to us should be what hypertension and diabetes are to the internist I saw last week for my annual physical. It should just be a natural part of what we do. And so in addition to pushing forward, we want to continue with the giving opportunities for education for people, even new graduates that aren't that comfortable, that may not have done a residency in treating and following a glaucoma patient for the rest of their life, which we can do with most glaucoma patients, knowing how to work with ophthalmologists when the time comes to pull the trigger. So I'm not sure about a legacy, except that we just have an incredible profession with amazing people. I talked to my wife the other day, going to a funeral of a dear friend who worked on the glaucoma bill with me in 1992. And I said, our people are just amazing people. And back to your point about ODs wanting to still live in the COVID era of doing online CE, you just can't get that unless you're at an in-person meeting. And I think the legacy of all of us is that we're good people, but we need to practice to the full scope that we've come to at this point and beyond. And that's been my effort, and will continue to be as long as I'm around, which is going to be quite a while longer.
Hey man, you've already done it, from New England College of Optometry to Baskin Palmer to the X amount of years or decades that you've been the chair at Seco. So again, I want to thank you on behalf of all of optometry for all the great work and the legacy that you have created. Chris, take us home, my friend. What do you want to be known for when it's your time to retire your phoropter, my friend?
Well, Paul is way too modest. You know, you're looking at a World Optometry Hall of Famer there for a good reason, and his legacy will speak for itself. And for me, if it could just be said of me, I left the profession in a little bit better shape than I found it, then I'll be happy if I can pass it on to the next generation of leadership and help maybe invest in and raise up some other young ODs who can carry the torch forward and maybe say that same thing at the end of the day. Then profession's going to be in a phenomenal shape. It is now, but it'll be even better if we can all say that.
I love it. Thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been a fantastic conversation. I learned so much from the history of Seco to what's in store for us in a couple of weeks, to what the future of what Seco is going to look like. But also, Chris, you really gave me a glimpse of what the future of eye care is going to look like. So I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show. All my colleagues out there, if you have not been to Seco, put it on your radar. Make sure you go, make sure you network, make sure you get the right education to elevate your practice. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover. Until next time, stay healthy, stay positive, and stay blessed.
Hey,
Peace.
family, if you enjoyed this full podcast, don't miss out on more engaging content. Check out the next episode right here. And for the latest updates, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support means the world to us. Catch us in the next episode. Peace.